Welcome back to Lunatic Astrology. I'm your astrologer, Lori Lothian, and today we're talking about the good news Capricorn moon that's happening, this gorgeous, beautiful new moon on January 2nd, the first moon of 2022. Why am I calling it the good news moon? You're probably wondering. Because I believe it's going to usher in on two separate occasions around January 18th and later February 24th, two stages of good news. Now, not normally would I be talking about something like a new moon ushering something in as far out as February 24th, but I'll explain why shortly. And then the good news is mostly around the Omicron and the pandemic. And I want to share that I do think that the pandemic is over, but I don't think it's until January 18th when Uranus goes into direct motion that we're going to see that as true. But this moon has planted the new moon seeds for that truth to be self-evident. I hope I'm correct. Otherwise, it's still just a good news moon. And that I'm going to explain why in terms of how that good news that's coming from this moon this month could affect you in your life, depending on your sun, moon, or rising sign, especially rising sign. That's my all signs portion. So stay tuned for that. Before we get to the all signs portion, and before that, the global delineation of this moon, a couple of items of business if you can hang in there. Please like, subscribe, don't forget to hit the bell for notifications. It helps my channel grow, and I would appreciate if I could. I'm trying to reach 3,000 subscribers by January 1st. I'm about 45 subscribers away. Help me out, guys. I would really love it. Number two, I have a lot of stuff for sale down below. Check it out, my year ahead forecast, grab my newsletter, Cosmic Moonshine. It's free. You can subscribe and then you get 30% off a bunch of stuff with me, including readings, all of that. Third order of business is, like my earrings, check out the designer in the link below, her Etsy. She's amazing. She's local in Vancouver, Canada. I like to promote local talent. Item number 4 of business is I'm starting a new class, your personal 2022 abundance. It's 3 classes, January 8th and 3 weekends live. Replays available, PDF workbook, how to look at your natal chart, where the prosperity promise is in your sky, how to connect to the planetary body that is the most aligned with your wealth, and how do you look at the sky for your personal chart in 2022. You do not need to be a professional astrologer to do this class. It's made for everybody. I'm simplifying it down to the barest bones that I can. However, if you've never even looked at an astrology chart and you have no interest in astrology, it may not be your cup of tea. There may be a bit of an early steep learning curve to actually look at what the planetary glyphs are and learn them, or what the houses are and understand them. But I think it's good for early beginner fans of astrology level. And I hope you'll join me and check the description box below. If you sign up for my Cosmic Moonshine newsletter, you're going to be able to take this class for 30% off the $111 for the 3 classes. Don't forget, replays available, and you do get a big PDF workbook to work your way through the prosperity promise, your abundance of 22 in your own chart, and use the information to find where your luck is, where your openings are, and where you can avoid the pitfalls in 22. Like there'll be certain times in your sky when it is not a good idea to take a financial risk. Okay, let's get going with the Capricorn moon, guys. So, okay, first off, why do I love minor asteroids? People always say, why do you do the minor asteroids? Well, because they tell true stories and the devil is in the details. I have a client who channels David Bowie. I'm going to be having her on this channel shortly. The asteroid David Bowie, named David Bowie, is on her midheaven. I have a client who channels Jesus. The asteroid Jesus is on his midheaven. I had a client who says she believes she was with Jesus and Mary Magdalene in another life. Those asteroids are on her sun. Okay, she didn't know that. I mean, so these asteroids are weirdly accurate. Okay, that aside, the asteroid Apollo is the god of plague. Apollo has many meanings, but he is a plague god in mythology. In fact, somebody came out with Apollo's Poison Arrow, a new book on pandemics, etc. So Apollo I've been tracking during the pandemic. And right now, Apollo is sitting within 3 degrees of Uranus in the sign of Taurus. Now, interestingly, and this is not that common, the asteroids travel around the heavens around every 4 to 5 years, 5.5 years, depending on how close they are in the asteroid belt. So, the very fact that Uranus is the god of something sudden, something changing, something electrifying, something shocking, and Apollo, the god of plagues, is together in the sky now is interesting. But importantly, they are in a trine to the 12-degree Capricorn new moon. And that means that this moon is seeding something, new moons, new beginnings, that will come to light when Probably Uranus goes into direct motion from retrogradation around the 18th, 19th of January. And later on February 24th, there's another bit of good news about this pandemic, or this Omicron variant maybe being the great equalizer and almost spelling the end of the pandemic as we've known it, as it may be highly transmissible, far less virulent, and turn out to be kind of nature's inoculation. Hopefully, I don't know that for sure. I am not telling you medical advice. But anyway, the other piece of good news is that Jupiter in the sky at the time of the moon is in a trine to Hygeia, the goddess of health and hygiene and healing. Now, you could say that Jupiter, the god of law, trining the god of hygiene, could be more rules about mask wearing, but I don't feel so. The trine feels like something positive is breaking through. And that trine between Hygeia and Jupiter will not perfect until February 24th, even though it's in a spectral trine. By the time they kind of sync up with each other, it's the third week of February. So I am feeling like the third week of February is going to build on the good news that comes the third week of January, and that's seeded by the Capricorn new moon, which, by the way, is well appointed with a retrograde Venus and Pluto and Mercury and Juno. A bunch of people are hanging out in Capricorn right now in the sky. It's a really intense piece of real estate, okay? So this moon is well accompanied by a benefic. Even though Venus is retrograde, she's a benefic, and she will go forward out of her retrogradation, okay, on February 4th. So again, we're seeing this sort of momentum towards something good happening in the future, as some of the accompanying planets for this are going to go direct. I'm going to show you the picture of the sky, and then I'm going to do the all signs without the picture. For some of you people who really are geeky about astrology, here you go. Here is what I'm looking at when I'm talking about X, Y, and Z. There is Hygeia, the goddess of health and hygiene, and she is like a medical symbol. The snakes around, so the caduceus, the snakes around the staff. And then you can see that there's this trine to Jupiter, which will perfect on February 24th, because these guys, she's moving faster than he's moving slower, so it takes them that long to connect fully in a trine. Also, you can see that the moon is not supposed to be over here. I apologize. I was playing around earlier. I'll put it back to the right exact connection point at 12 degrees. So give me a sec and you'll watch the moon move back in time. Hang on. But you have to trust me, it's happening at 12 degrees of Capricorn on January 2nd. Would help if it was on January 2nd, yeah. And the other thing I want to point out is, sorry, am I making you guys dizzy? I'm making me dizzy. Okay, just trust me, it's at 12 degrees of Capricorn. I laugh, me and software, can you tell I have 4 planets in Aries? Like I totally cannot be patient with clicking that button. Anyway, you can see that there's Uranus at 10 degrees of Taurus, and this moon, full moon, new moon, I mean, will be at 12 degrees of Capricorn. And they are looking up over at Uranus in a flowing, harmonious way, with the asteroid Apollo 3 degrees away from Uranus. The software won't draw it in. So, you know, some surprising or illuminating or bolt of energy around the Apollo plague in a flowing, harmonious way that this moon is seeding a reveal, okay, of some kind. So that's the best way I can put it. It looks positive. There's Jupiter at 0, Mercury will be at 0 actually when the moon actually takes place. There's a lot of reset button energy going on here. I'll show you the reset button of 0 Mercury. There we go. So January 2nd, Mercury is resetting in Aquarius. It's sign to do with we the people, humanitarianism, science, invention, all of that. Jupiter is resetting 0 in Pisces, where he's going to be until mid-May. He's a benefic in dignity as he's in this harmonious flow to Hygeia. So good news moon is what I'm calling it for each of us. There's some area of good news in our sky that's going to come to light. I'm going to do all signs by focusing on the trine between the moon and Uranus, and I may bring in Hygeia and Jupiter if I feel called as well. Lastly, you can see that Mercury at 0 is in a square to Hygeia. This could be something like, well, the good news is breaking, Jupiter Hygeia, around the pandemic. There is oppositional communications, confusing news, or dissenting information, Mercury and Aquarius being dispersed into the people public that is opposing what looks like the good news. And already you see that in the media. You're seeing a lot of people who are looking at the science and looking at the data and the hospitalizations and the lack of oxygen support needed and the relatively low numbers of hospitalizations relative to not just the number of cases, because with Omicron, what's happened around the world is testing facilities have been overrun. So the number of actual cases reflects probably a quarter of the number of people who actually have Omicron. Alrighty. Lastly, Omicron replaces Delta. That's already been shown. It's not Delta and Omicron. Omicron replaces Delta as it becomes endemic and takes over. I've been saying this in all of my videos. Go back to my November 29th Omicron video when I talk about Mercury in the heart of the sun conjunct Panacea. I've been predicting for like months now with Mars heliacal rise in Scorpio that we were at the end of the pandemic and coming into 22 in what I call the year of wars. I will talk more about that in one of my other videos, which is going to be like 6 bold predictions for 2022, astrological and psychic. Okay, I'm going to stop the share. And we're going to go through all signs. As I do this, remember your rising sign will always be the most accurate. I am using tropical whole sign Hellenistic astrology, FYI. If you can cast your chart in whole signs, go to astro.com or astro-seek.com, and I think you will find it illuminating. You'll find that the Placidus system may not be so super swell after all, or the Cope and the Campanus. These systems were created in the modern times, and they were invented without any resources to the way the ancients used astrology. Just like in India, the ancient world of Western world Hellenism and Persian astrology, they used whole sign houses. Alrighty, one sign, 30 degrees, one whole house. Next, your sun and moon can be useful. I use all of mine when I look at my delineations. Often you'll find that if you're born at night, the moon may be actually more useful. And if you're born in the day, your sun sign may be more useful. If you don't know your moon sign, then you go to astro.com or astro-seek.com, cast your chart. You'll get that information. It's not that hard. All right, you need your time of birth though to do it. Now, I am going to go through all signs, and I am not going to make this a long video today, guys. And so hope you can keep up with me, but I will give you each sign about 2 to 3 minutes of a delineation of where this good news is breaking through in your sky. So I'm going to start today. I think I'm going to start today with Aries. As you know, some people get confused when you start with Pisces and then they come in and watch the replay and they think they've missed it or something. So traditional Aries first. All right. I have an Aries sun, moon, Mercury, and Athena. So I always check the Aries delineations astrologically for myself, even though I'm Aquarius rising. So Aries sun, moon, but especially Aries rising sign. In 2022's first new moon of the year, the good news moon, that trine to Uranus is going through your money house. Now, this is excellent for your finances. Some of you Aries are going to have a surprising jolt of goodness in your money story. Now, it could be coming from your career path because the new moon is in the 10th house of your reputation, your status, and your career. But honestly, the 10th house isn't just about your career. It's also about your reputation in the world. Like if for instance, you were to suddenly become, an heiress or win the lottery or something jolted in your finances towards a really positive direction, your reputation may change with that, but it can definitely come from your career as well as, higher authorities, sun, new moon energy, the sun is up there. So the boss wants to promote you, or you get a raise or an unexpected bonus, or if you have your own business, all of a sudden you got a ka-ching in your PayPal Stripe accounts or something like that. You will also perhaps experience something going on in your direction of your vocation. The deeper meaning of the second house is the voice, therefore calling and vocation. And you may have a jolting, surprising uptick of good news in a change of direction in vocation. Now, you also have Jupiter in a trine to Hygeia. And of course, that is a flow that's stamped into this good news moon and will prevail for 2 weeks after. Jupiter's resetting your buttons in your 12th house. This is great, you Aries, for you to release yourself from addictive habits and patterns. As a wine lover, I'm on a cleanse as Venus goes retrograde. I think for me, I love wine, but I cannot drink it every day. At almost 60 years old, I realize I can't do it every day anymore. And so I have to decide on a new path in my life. So I'm choosing to take, maybe I'm 40 days off for sure of wine, but maybe it'll be a year off. Maybe it'll be forever. I don't know. So for a lot of you Aries, you're going to release a self-sabotaging, bad habit, addiction, negative thought forms, ways you self-defeat yourself, self-undoing. And that Jupiter is going to be going through that 12th house of self-undoing for you Aries folk until the middle of May, and then back again the last 2 months of 22. So that's a longer story, but this next 2 weeks is really ideal for really kicking off a cleanse, or getting rid of a self-sabotaging habit or pattern. And with Hygeia in the 8th house of also your deep unconscious and subconscious and forbidden terrains of your psyche and soul, you may be digging a little deeper than you normally do around these things, and looking at your inner map to see where you might have quicksand. Last but not least, there's a bit of a money story with Jupiter in the 12th and Hygeia in the 8th. It could be financial hygiene with good news coming from PayPal, Stripe, or foreign lands revenue. You could always construe the 12th and 8th as money stories as well. So you got a lot of money goodness, Aries people, coming in a couple of weeks for sure after this moon. Don't forget, though, to lean into the idea that there's a seeding that won't become available fully until Uranus goes direct, which, as I already mentioned, is around January 18th. And I think you may realize the promise of the good news around the mid to third week of January. All right, moving on, Taurus, sun, moon, and rising sign. So guys, for you, this energy is happening in your Apollo in the moon, Apollo and Uranus together, the god of plagues and Uranus are in your first house. And Uranus has been in your first house since May of 2018, full-time since 2019, January, March, and we'll be there until at the very least 2026. Okay, it's a bit of a zigzag out in 25, but you got a lot of Uranus hitting on you directly. This is like really helping you reinvent yourself outside the box, coloring way outside the lines of anybody's expectations for who you should be in this world. This is you being original, inventive, sovereign, freedom loving, creative in your inventive energies, eclectic, and you're really embodying Uranus, right? You are the people going for it, especially in 22, you Taurus, sun, moon, and risings that have your sun, moon, and rising, let's say between, 8 degrees and 20 degrees. No, I'd say between 8 degrees and 17 degrees of Taurus, like you're very activated by Uranus in 22. So I would say that this good news that's happening is coming out of the moon that will give us your true goodness by Uranus direct. And it looks to me like it's about education or higher education, which is the 9th house where this moon is happening. Also trips to foreign lands. I mean, if you had to cancel trips because of plague central here, or you've been trying to get off the ground on some trip, I do think that by the middle of January and then later February 24th, as I mentioned earlier, these are momentums around higher education, foreign lands, book publishing, and spiritual attainment, and connections to your father, because in Vedic astrology, the 9th house is the house of the father. And for some of you, this may be about your father as well, but it is a positive flowing energy. Now, Hygeia, the goddess of health and healing, and all of that is in your 7th house of your primary relationship. And the trine to Jupiter will be actualized and perfected around the 24th of February, but it's going to open up Jupiter in your 11th house, great gains from your career, or your 11th house of your hopes, dreams, and wishes, or your kind of karmic and cosmic rewards. It's going to open up some goodness in your primary business and love relationships. And you may end up signing contracts or legal agreements with great hygiene, watching the details the third week of February, that boost your sense of financial success from your career. So some of you, this could look like a boost in your career. For some of you, though, it definitely looks like a really sweet energy that comes to fullness around the third week of February in your primary love relationship. But the moon today, not today, but on January 2nd, I'm recording sometime in December. I don't even know what day it is, December 29th. There's a lot of flow going on here between Jupiter and your 7th house from December 29th, okay, until the middle of May. And this means that your primary love and business relationships will be flourishing. Okay, moving on. Gemini, sun, moon, and rising sign. So for you guys, the energy is Uranus and Apollo in a conjunction in Taurus, and that Taurus zone of your real estate is your 12th house. Now that's your subtle kind of dreams at night, your inner life, your contemplations, your past lives, if you use evolutionary astrology, just a feeling that you are kind of like, it's where you're offline from reality. It's like not of this world, a metacosmos, between the world's place, a liminal space. And so I kind of feel like it's very subtle, but you could have, because there's a lot of luck from that trine, the moon trine to the 8th house, a secret reveal that is going to illuminate things for you in a very powerful and positive way. You could have a download from your dreams at night that also affects your finances, your 8th house stuff, and plant some new seeds there. So you may have an inner perspective that's brand fresh, spanking new, that, you know, Apollo wasn't just the god of plagues, he was also the god of arts and culture. So if you're a creative Gemini, this could really open up something for you in that field of a downloadable dream or an insight from a meditation that could be creative and artistic, that could lend itself to greater financial flow, 8th house money. For some of you Geminis, I can't pretend otherwise, this is a new moon in the house of inheritances, and it's also the house of death. And Uranus is in the house of hospitals with Apollo, the god of plagues. Well, I don't wish this for you as a Gemini. Somebody you know may be hospitalized with problems with their health, and it may be plague related, I don't know, but it could also be very positive for you in some way. I don't know how I could say that. Maybe, you know, it's someone who was already elderly and ill passes away, and you Geminis get some kind of bequeathment, but the moon is planting the seeds for that, and wait till mid-January, around the 18th, for the fruition of that. Lastly, the new moon is in the house of taxes. And so some of you may have some financial gain from a tax reassessment, a tax rebate, or redoing your taxes in a new way. And that could really help money flourish for you from this moon onward, especially, as I said, mid-January, and then later on in February 24th. Now, February 24th connects to Jupiter in Pisces in 0 degrees, resetting your 10th house of career, Geminis, and Hygeia in that trine to him, perfecting on February 24th in Scorpio. So here's the deal, that water trine, you're definitely having some positive new beginnings in your career direction. As a Gemini, this is going to be something you might be able to outpicture most dramatically and clearly in February when that Jupiter Hygeia thing perfects, but the seeds of something new and fresh and positive are starting in career and reputation for you. Now, Jupiter can be a boss or a higher up in your career place of employment, benefiting you, giving you some favors, giving you promotions, and the seeds are being planted for that now in this good news new moon. Jupiter will be blessing you in your career stuff anyway, okay, the first 4.5 months. 5.5 months of 2022. Cancer, sun, moon, rising sign. So Apollo with Uranus and Taurus are sitting together in your 11th house of great financial gains from your career, or friends and allies as benefactors, or your hopes, dreams, and wishes, or your karmic and cosmic rewards, or pennies from heaven. Lots of things about that 11th house. And the moon is in your 7th. Now, this is the 7th house of your primary love and business relationships. It also can involve your audience, marketplace, and public for things you do in your career. If you're a Cancer rising, especially, who has the need to promote, publicize, or sell things, having a new moon here is a really auspicious new seed that's being planted. And Uranus is the god of the internet and technologies for communications that are cutting edge in your 11th house. You could suddenly have a bolt of public exposure for popularity, or for a little mini flash of fame with this combination. I would also say that if you're in a primary relationship, this will serve your relationship and will bring some electrifying goodness to that relationship. And if you're single, this could maybe seed a new relationship, but from communities of belonging, friendship communities, societies you belong to, clubs you belong to. Someone who starts out more like an ally as a friend, or belongs to a group of friends, or through a friend could be coming your way. The other thing I'd say is that with Jupiter in your 9th house, and he will be there until about May the 11th, starts there December 29th, this is going to be very good for all things to do with courts, legal affairs. You'll win, you'll prevail, justice will work in your favor, visas, foreign lands, passports, travel, and also higher education. And if you're into book publishing, yes, you will get a great agent, or your book could become a big splash during this window of December 29th to mid-May, and last 2 months of 22. But in the meantime, this little Hygeia flow from the goddess of healing to Jupiter looks a lot to me as Hygeia is in your 5th house of luck, your 5th house of children, the muse, inspiration. You're really going to have something quite sweet happen here. You've got until February 24th for this to perfect. However, it is coincident with this new beginning, good news moon. So some seeds you're planting in the next couple of weeks, or the first couple of weeks of January, may indeed be playing out throughout till third week of February. Hygeia is in the house of your children, so this may also involve your children being involved in whatever this is about: foreign lands, travel, passports, visas, etc. If you're looking for a spiritual guide, mentor, or guru, and you are Cancer, Sun, Moon, or Rising, Jupiter up here can bring you an amazing guide, mentor, teacher, coach, etc. And with Hygeia in the 5th house, it could be a guide, mentor, teacher, coach that really inspires you to get in touch with your vitality, your enjoyment of life, the muse within, all of those good things. So it's a very auspicious sky for you, Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising sign. Leo, Sun, Moon, and Rising sign. Let me just check something, guys. Yes, I am recording. Oh gosh, I had that moment of, you ever do that? I do it all the time. Am I really recording? I am. So Gemini, not Gemini, I'm sorry. I was at, let me just rearrange my screen here. Sorry, I was talking about Leo, Sun, Moon, and Rising sign. So Apollo is sitting with Uranus in the sky in your natal 10th house of your reputation, your career, and your status in the world. And also at the very same time, trining that moon, that new Capricorn moon at 12 degrees of your 6th house. Okay, now your 6th house is the work you're doing in the world, the daily routines of your work, the sense of the workplace, maybe colleagues and comrades and co-workers or employees. And it also is about your health protocols. Now, a lot of times when you look at a trine between 6 and 10, it really is a work career storyline. And it looks to me for most of you Leos, there's going to be a breaking through in a work and career direction. And some of the good news will come after January 18th, and more so, there'll be some more goodness coming down the pipeline the 3rd week of February. But particularly around the career and work situation, this could look really like a sudden dramatic change in the work environment. Maybe a boss retires, a colleague quits, but whatever happens, it's really good for you. And whatever has plagued you, Apollo, in your career direction will no longer plague you. Now, I do also think it could be about your health improving, and that could be also improving your work environment and your work reputation. So things to do with health could be also on the upswing through very sudden turnarounds with Uranus in the game with you in the first 2 to 3 weeks after this new moon. I also would say with Goddess of Health and Healing, Hygeia, in the 4th house of your home, a lot of the healing you would do for your health will come from your home base, okay? It's home-based healing. It's not going off to the doctor necessarily. It could be things you do in your kitchen, your hearth, your cooking routines, your food choices, just things you're doing in and from your home. Boy, am I ever having big hair today. And then you also have your Hygeia in a combination of a flowing, harmonious, love up trine with Jupiter at 0 degrees of your money house. Now, your 8th house is your spouse's money too. Now, your jointly held monies with your spouse, and also inheritances, and also investments in, the stock market and stuff. It's possible with Jupiter here until May 11th, you're going to find some incredibly powerful uptick in your financial well-being, or that you and your partner together are experiencing that. Hygeia in the house of home means that a lot of this may involve your real estate, your home, especially in the first 2 or 3 weeks of December. Changes in the home to do with healing and health and hygiene, in influencing or supporting you financially, or vice versa. Maybe some of you Leos are looking at buying or selling a home during this window, and Jupiter will give you the best loan possible. You won't believe it, like the loan of the century, the mortgage of the century. First of all, last of all, Leos, with Jupiter spending 4.5 months, 5.5 months here in the beginning of 22 and the last couple of months of 22, this is Jupiter in the 8th is stands to inherit. So you maybe bequeath something, somebody may pass, you may receive an inheritance. Now, you could also get spousal support and alimony and all of that as well with this placement sometime in 2022. Check my all signs forecast. You get more detail about that. You can buy it, or you can just look at my playlist for the all signs forecast for 22. Each sign has its own video and go into more depth for you there. All right, Virgo, sun, moon, and rising sign. So, hey guys, you are having Uranus and Apollo conjunct in Taurus, which is your ninth house. Now, the ninth house is a house of higher education, foreign lands, foreign shores, legal affairs and courts, visas, and all of that kind of stuff. It can also be a place of spiritual truth and wisdom. With Uranus there, if you had a religion, you probably lost it. I mean, literally, Uranus is shaking that house up, and you're like finding your own original way to connect with the divine. And the next thing I'd say about it is that with that Uranus Apollo combination and trine to the moon at 12 Capricorn in your fifth house of babies, be careful for sudden accidental pregnancies. And should this occur, there's likely a grandparent trying to reincarnate through you. Don't ask me why. It has to do with derivative houses, but be cautious that you or your partner are using birth control very, very effectively, because this Capricorn new moon with a Uranian bolt to the fifth house of fertility could look like an accidental pregnancy. For you Virgos as well, your own relationship to your children could be going through a harmonious uplift with that trine from Uranus. If you are an artist, a creator, a writer, a musician, a Uranian bolt from the ninth house of God could be like downloading the most divinely inspired piece of creativity of your lifetime. You could feel this building, and especially as Uranus goes direct on January the 18th. Back to that pregnancy story. Conceive a baby around the new moon, and yeah, find out about, mid-January that you missed a period, right? Or your partner did. So you've got this warning from me. I'm just letting you know. Jupiter is in a trine to Hygeia from your seventh house of your love relationship, primary partners in business, to your third house of trips and travel, local neighborhood, siblings. Now, first of all, it just could be a super flow that's playing out here and perfecting the third week of February between the possibility of a lovely train, plane, or automobile excursion with the one you love. And you may be planting the seeds for it in this moon and being able to actualize it the third week of February, or get that trip up and running. You could also have some good news from siblings, aunts, uncles, or cousins that positively impacts you and your partner. And lastly, if you are doing anything to publicize yourself in the online world, or to share or market yourself, and you have a career that requires that, this Jupiter transit will be really good for that until the middle of May and the last 2 weeks of 22. And also your relationship with the one you're with, if you're with somebody, will just up level, like more love, more love, more love, let's get engaged, let's get married, let's move in together. And your own partner, if you have one, will also have the experience of more fortune and luck during this Jupiter transit of your seventh house. If you're in a bad relationship, though, Jupiter can bring blessed endings. He's really tricky that way. So if the relationship sucks and you know it, and one way to know if your relationship sucks is that, are you having, do the positive days or experiences outweigh the negative? As soon as the negative days and experiences with your partner are like, 5 to 1, 5 negative to 1 positive, this relationship with Jupiter crossing over your seventh house will come to a blessed ending. Just have to say. All right, moving on. Libra, sun, moon, rising sign. Well, Libras, guess what? You get a jolting Uranian bolt of yum out of your eighth house of money that comes from bank loans and mortgages and investments and government monies and stuff like that, flowing to your fourth house, where that moon in Capricorn at 12 degrees is sitting. This speaks to me of real estate, sell and buy. This is also maybe auspicious new leases if you're a renter. This can also lend itself to a surprising inheritance from a legacy in your family of origin, because the fourth house is your family of origin, often the mother, but it can just be family of origin energy. So you may receive an inheritance. Now, Uranus is going to be going through that house for a long time, until 2026, but this particular moon is seeding something there that may play out and be evident to you by January 18th, when Uranus goes direct. The eighth house is psychic ability, occult stuff, metaphysics, and magic. And if you are inclined in that direction, Uranus could give you a pineal gland insight or download that could affect you in terms of land, home, and real estate. You may have an insight like, I need to move, to India or something like that, but you'll have the potential to download those insights already. You have the Hygeia, the goddess of healing, in your second house of money and earnings. You're doing a little fiscal hygiene here, fixing your earnings money flow story while she's there, and in a trine to Jupiter in your sixth house of work. So work and money combinations and flow are being rearranged right now. And this new moon is a part of that. However, seed you plant now won't be fully available to be realized by you until maybe around February 24th, when Jupiter and Hygeia perfect this work routines, second house, flow. Now, there's another meaning here. Hygiene could clean up your second house, what you eat and drink, food that you put in your mouth, and drinks, and Jupiter in your sixth house of health protocols. So some of you Libras will be around February 24th, when this perfects, maybe significantly changing your food and health routines, like, quitting all gluten or going vegan or something dramatic like that. And I know people, like I knew one woman who had something similar happen with this combination, and she found out she had diabetes, and she went on a vegetarian or vegan diet, and her high blood pressure or diabetes wherever went away. So you may have one of those moments, like come to Jesus moments with your health, and then you'll find that there's easily a nutritional or health solution depends on food stuff, what you eat, second house stuff. Scorpio, sun, moon, rising sign. So you Scorpios have this energy of Apollo and Uranus in your seventh house of primary love relationships, legal contracts, and business partnerships, in a trine to the moon in your third house of trips, travel, siblings, the online world, skills-based education. Now, it could be nothing to do with you. Honestly, sometimes Uranus in your seventh house could be a jolt of news from your beloved spouse, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. And it may impact you guys regarding travel. Like, okay, thank God you got that raise or that promotion, and now we can take that trip we wanted to take. So there's just something like, it could not be about you. But if you use the internet to sell and market, or if you have to promote stuff into the world, Uranus in a trine to the house of selling, the third house, could mean all of a sudden, for some of you Scorpios, your sales ability is through the roof, and like you could sell like igloos to Eskimos. You could sell like I don't know, something like nobody needs to somebody. You'll just be like on your game, and you'll be having these bolts and jolts of goodness there. Right. The third house can be extended family, siblings, aunts, uncles, and cousins. And for some of you guys, you may be feeling that with this trine from the seventh house, there may be some positive news coming from a sibling that affects your primary relationship, or from your primary relationship that connects to your siblings. It's hard to make sense of that. So that's kind of vague. I apologize, but best I could do with that one. If you want to learn something, there's a skills-based learning. There's a new beginning at being planted, a new seed here for you guys. And you may not realize it till January 18th, when Uranus goes direct, but a new seed for a new direction and learning that could really help you with your marriage, with your primary relationship, etc. If you're single, this could be a new relationship that comes to you in the month of January because of something you're doing, like traveling, trips and travel, local neighborhood. And I got to tell you that, the third house is Hinge and Plenty of Fish and Bumble and all that, those online apps as well. New person could come out of the blue, jolting you. So the Jupiter in your fifth house of money, luck, and romance, and children, and pregnancy, trine Hygeia in your first house. Now, number one, Hygeia going through your first house will be a story that's ongoing for the next couple of months about you being more healthy and paying attention to your body and being healthy mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And with a trine from Jupiter, the house of vitality, inspiration, play, and enthusiasm, you are getting an uplift of being more available to joy, fun, and creativity, and better health because of it. However, Scorpio, Jupiter will make people pregnant when he goes through the fifth house. You or your partner, it doesn't matter. There's pregnancy in the air, and he'll be in your fifth house of fertility from December 29th, 21 until May 11th, and then the last 2 months of 22, basically. So just be attentive, because I don't want you to think, just know that if you don't want a baby, be careful. That's all. Now, that's all I want to say about that. I mean, and you know what? This is opening up, maybe around February 24th, where this perfects, right? Something very beautiful around your sense of health, mentally, emotionally, and physically, and the flow of vitality through you, because the fifth house has to do with solar and vital life force energy. It's where we get inspired, filled with spirit and spirited. And you're moving around February 24th to a new level of that. Alrighty, keep that in mind. Sagittarius, sun, moon, rising sign. So guys, you know, the energy for you is all about bolts of goodness, Uranus with Apollo in your sixth house. What has plagued you about your own health and health protocols, Sagittarius is, or your lack of work routines, and the trine to your second house of what you put in your mouth and what you drink. I think a lot of you Sagittarius will ditch something that it's not good for your health that you're putting in your mouth, and Uranus will give you a bolt of insight or a sudden shock and awe to change it up. Thinking about a couple of my Sag people I know already, I'm like, dudes, get on a cleanse already. So there's this moment, you know. Also, I think that your money story can dramatically improve, and suddenly through your wages, earnings, and work environment, second house stuff, and Uranus in the house of the colleagues in the work stuff you're doing. So some of you Sagittarius could have a bolt of good money increase coming to you from this Capricorn energy, new moon. But don't forget, wait till Uranus goes direct on the 18th of January, maybe to see the fruits of the promise here. With Jupiter, the god of luck and opportunity in the fourth house of home and real estate, some of you are going to find, especially between now and mid-May, that you're going to relocate to an auspicious home or buy or sell a property, etc. And Jupiter in the new moon time frame is stamping in a beautiful trine to Hygeia in the 12th house of foreign lands. This means that some of you may aspire to move to a foreign shore and may scout out locations in the next while, particularly around February 24th, when the Jupiter Hygeia connection will perfect, okay? Also, your 12th house can be about almost like going back in time, you know, to another life, another place, and, you know, sort of a place of nostalgia. You might want to move to a nostalgic place, like, or to a place that is the original homeland. If your family ever relocated from a country, you might go back there. Yeah, that's kind of the vibe. Certainly with Jupiter in your fourth house for 5.5 months, and then later the last 2 months of 22, there's a lot of stuff going on around your home that's probably changing. And I doubt that you're going to finish 22 in the same home that you're in now. The other option is you expand that home, you construct like outhouses and extra, you know, you make it bigger. Yeah, I covered all of you. I've finished you. I'm coming to the finish line, guys. Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising sign. Well, you know, the Capricorn new moon is your moon. You get this once a year. You get a new beginning in your sign. If your rising sign, sun or moon, is anywhere between, let's say, oh, I don't know, 7 degrees of Capricorn to 15 degrees of Capricorn, you feel this very much. This is very much really impacting you, and real solid new beginning. Because there's that trine to Uranus and Apollo in the fifth house, if you've been having difficulties with your sexuality, your love life, you've been lacking fun, play, joy, and pleasure, if you've been feeling beleaguered by one of your children, weighing you down, or any difficulties there, all of this is about to turn around, especially January 18th, as there's forward direction going on from Uranus, and he'll kind of bring into fruition the promise of this new moon. I also would say that a new moon in your first house means a beginning newly about your body and your health. So this is a time to reset your physical health and well-being. You could definitely start a cleanse now. You could definitely dig into a new protocol for your physical health and mental health too, but just health in general. Yeah, for sure. And then we've got Jupiter in your third house of the local neighborhood, trips and travel, and skills-based learning. Well, you have Jupiter in a trine to Hygeia in your 11th house of, you know, many things. Great gains from your career, people who want to help you, sometimes windfall monies. Hygeia is trying to clean up your social environment. Like if you have, you know, larger social belonging groups that you connect to, and Hygeia is going through there, she's kind of like hygiene, right? Cleaning it up somehow. However, with this Jupiter trine actualizing February 23rd with Hygeia, I'd say there may be something to do with traveling because of a group affiliation, like if you belong to a group and the whole group is going to make a trip happen, or you may be plotting something from this new moon that has to do with a connection to your siblings that you can fortify and make real in the third week of February. May involve travel as well. Certainly, if you want to learn anything, like take a course of study, Jupiter will be here in your third house really until like the middle of May, and then last 2 weeks of 22. A lot of Capricorns can benefit from going into a course of study about an applied thing that they can use, a skills-based learning of some kind. And there's kind of a promise with Hygeia that it will benefit your career gains as well. She's in the house of the gains from your career. So keep that in mind. Aquarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. Well, here we are. I'm one of you, and we have this new beginning in the house of self-undoing. So again, it's about cleansing, resetting our buttons, getting rid of self-sabotaging habits and patterns. And we can get support from a trine from Uranus and Apollo, that which plagues us, in the house of home. Now, this can be very literal. It could be like things about your home that don't serve you. You know, you hate your home. You don't like your home. There's something wrong with your home. But, you know, Uranus is going through our Aquarian fourth house. You know, it's been there since 2019 in earnest. And like, guys, we have been like bolted and jolted, right? It's the nomad transit. And until 2026, we're not likely to stay put, or at least till 2025. And so, you know, Uranus is sending a positive jolt of energy to the 12th house of foreign shores and foreign lands. It is possible that maybe some Aquarians want to move to another country, but it also is the kind of energy where, you know, the energy from Uranus is coming to the subtle planes, your interior life, your dreams. I do feel that with the, you know, the eclipses moving through the North Node, North Node eclipses moving through our Aquarian fourth house, that there is no effing way the majority of Aquariuses are not moving or relocating their home. All right, in 2022, go check your all signs forecast for details. But right now, this new moon is kind of triggering that change energy. So I would say with Uranus going direct on January 18th, it's possible there will be an opportunity for a new home for you being brought to your awareness after January the 18th. Now, possibly, not for sure, but with the new moon being a moon, it could be connected to information or news from a female. With Jupiter in our second house of earnings and money and resources and possessions, where he will be until January 11th and back at the end of 22 for a couple of months, we're going into Aquarius, a time of incredible prosperity and a bounty and abundance. Now, Jupiter brings opportunity, the door, you know, when opportunity knocks, you have to open the door. It doesn't just land in your lap, but it can. I have to say, it can land in your lap. You can get a windfall with Jupiter in your second if there is a sweet correlation in your chart with, say, Venus or something else going on. But in general, the idea here is prosperity is building up momentum in 22 for us Aquarians. And right now, there's a seed on this new moon with Jupiter baked into a trine to Hygeia perfecting in the third week of February. Hygeia moving through the house of reputation and career, Jupiter moving through our second house of money and resources and earnings. It's almost like we're house cleaning or cleaning up the career part of our sky over the next few weeks until about February 24th. And then we get delivered to our doorstep some kind of financial bounty. So that's the best I can do with that. It feels like the best delineation. Jupiter going through our second house can mean you could excel financially by being a teacher. All right, there's just that, a guide, a leader, a teacher. That's possible as well. And by February 24th, with the Hygeia, a beautiful alignment with Jupiter, this idea can be realized most directly. All right, moving on to the last but never least, Pisces of the world. Pisces, sun, moon, rising sign especially, you guys are having the new beginning of Capricorn new moon in your 11th house. Now, a new beginning is being seeded here with a flowing trine to the house of siblings, a flowing trine to the house of short trips and travel, especially cars, trains, and automobiles, and things you can do with, it's not like going off to Bali, or if you're like American, you know, it's more often closer to home or within the continent you live in, you know. And as this is playing out, this new beginning, it's in the house of karmic rewards, and it's in the house of financial gain from your career, the 11th house, and also friends and allies who are benefactors. So what plagues you, is coming to an end here, because the god of plagues is in a trine to this new moon, conjunct Uranus, a sudden shift. Some of you may have been plagued by inability to travel, to see your aunts, uncles, cousins, or siblings. That's an example. And with this Uranus now trining the new moon, especially after January 18th, some of you will be taking journeys to meet with or travel to those extended family members, or just taking a trip, period. I also think that, that was with the sense of the Lord of the eclipse, the new moon being Saturn in your 12th house, for some of you, there is a trip to a foreign land. I have to qualify that. So there may be a foreign land trip as well. Percolating, being evident by January 18th, when Uranus goes direct. Now, Jupiter has entered into your first house, and this is, you guys have it all in 2022. Jupiter will be healing your physical body. Jupiter will be bringing you opportunities. Jupiter will be making you feel optimistic. Jupiter will bring you a new sense of faith and hope in life. And so Jupiter is doing this for you throughout to May 11th, in the last 2 months of 22. And in this new moon, he stamps in a 0-degree reset button, as he is in a trine to Hygeia in the 9th house of foreign lands. There's that foreign land bit for some of you Pisces, moving or traveling to foreign lands from your birthplace, foreign from where you live even. But Hygeia can be really helping you, come into a greater health and healing around 9th house issues. Like, what do you believe? What do you have faith in? What does God mean to you? What is your true north? What is your compass by which you live your life? And Jupiter being guru, guided teacher, and Hygeia being in the house of God. There's a real strong spiritual component for many of you to what's being promised in this new moon, but delivered more likely when the perfection between Jupiter and Hygeia happens on February the 24th. I'd say a lot of you are finding a new sense of faith and hope in life. Yeah. And if you need to win in a legal or court affair, Hygeia and Jupiter may promise that February 24th brings resolution through hygiene. You may be getting the lawyer to clean up the paperwork. Also things to do with passports and visas, fruiting and fruitioning here, especially February 24th onward. Okay, guys, thanks for listening to the Capricorn new moon. I'm recording on December the 29th. I know you know what day it is. I think I'll probably put this baby out soon. And I'm a little behind. It's been so busy. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Help me reach 3,000 people. I really appreciate your support. It's been a slow growth on my channel. Sometimes I complain, but that's life. But I love how connected I am to those of you who do subscribe. And I appreciate all of you, and have a wonderful 2022. Mwah.